let's go back to October 31st. You're a kid in 4th or 5th grade, you're sitting in your desk and you're ready for that bell to ring so you can hit the ground running, get your costume on, get out to those houses so you can get your Halloween candy hoard, and then go home, put on the 31 Nights of Halloween on Freeform or Family Channel, whichever one was on when you were a kid. And that is what I'm trying to recreate with this movie list. So these are all my favorite Halloween vibe movies. I'm going to go in order of family movies to my most goriest movies that I like that have the best Halloween or trick-or-treat vibes. And stay tuned to the end because I am going to show you guys the new Terror Thread shirts that I got. Stay tuned for that. So first on my list is going to be E.T. the Extraterrestrial. So if you like Universal the way we do, this is an automatic, has to be on this list. First of all, there's so many scenes that have to do with kids on bikes and kids just outside, which is definitely nostalgia for me. And it has all those things, those elements that bring you back to childhood. Every time I think about Halloween candy and I think of Reese's Pieces, I can't not think of E.T. and this movie. So if you haven't watched it recently, go back and rewatch it. You'll figure out all the things that you loved about it and why you liked it so much as a kid, just like I did. Next is The Witches. So for me, this one is definitely a must watch on my Halloween movie list. It's one that I watch randomly throughout the year when I think about it. It's honestly probably a little too scary for most kids, or at least I would think it's too scary, because when I was a kid, I definitely would have been more scared of this. I'm glad I watched it when I was a little older because I can appreciate it more. It has a lot of those spooky bedtime story vibes, especially because one of the main protagonists in the movie is a grandmother telling stories about witches to her grandson. So I just think it is all the right vibes for Halloween, and definitely one to watch, especially if you happen to have your grandma around. Watch it with her. Next is The Addams Family. Da 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 da. And of course, that one is a classic, whether it be the original or the newer ones. I'm partial to the newer ones because those are the ones that came out when I was a kid. And I just like all of them. They're full of a lot of dark humor, and it's some of my favorite scenes that Christina Ricci has done when she was younger. But definitely, I mean, alone for that song and the intro, worth watching. And it's the second one that has this big party scene, and it's also got a lot of scenes with Joan Cusack where she is one of the villains in the movie. But definitely a great movie, both that one and the first one, and the originals as well. Next, Casper. So Casper is one that I watched I don't know how many times as a kid. Great movie, one of Christina Ricci's best movies, or most well known, I would say. And it is just fun. It's family friendly from what I remember. I'm not sure how well a lot of the jokes aged, as in most movies, but it's a fun movie, has a lot of great music, and also has a trick-or-treating Halloween night big party scene too. And anytime a movie has a lot of costumes and has a lot of those fall vibes where there's a lot of trees turning fall colors and the weather is exactly right, like all of those things combined definitely scream Halloween to me. So this is one that's good for that list. Next is Hocus Pocus, and that is a automatic classic. I know a lot of people feel polarized about this one. Either you love it or you hate it, or you're meh. But I think that it's a great movie. I've watched it tons of times, probably so many that's probably why I haven't watched it so much lately. They did make a second one not too long ago that came out on Disney Plus. I don't know how I felt about that one. It was okay. What did you think, hun? Well, there you go. It was okay. It was not as good to me, of course, as the first one, but it's really hard to touch an original, especially one that's become a classic. Now, a lot of things don't make sense in the movie. I will give you that. They just don't make sense timeline wise, and just a lot of things just don't make sense. But it's a movie, and it's just a silly kids movie. I love it. I love Bette Midler in it. I think that she's got a great sense of humor, and all the songs in it also, again, are just epic for Halloween time. So definitely a must watch for Halloween. Next is Monster House. So this one, I don't know how I felt about it being a kids movie when I first saw it, just because the ending and kind of what possessed the monster house in the end, I don't know, it's a little a rough idea for a kids movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I don't want to ruin it for you. It is a good movie. There's a lot of funny parts in it. There's a lot of weird things, a lot, just enough spooky and scary for it to be interesting for adults, but also creepy and funny and good for kids too. So I would say probably watch it before you watch it with kids, just to make sure that you think it's okay, based on the concepts. But yeah, still definitely a good watch in my opinion for adults for sure. But since there are elements of like death and other things, you might want to, tread lightly when watching that with children. Halloween Town. This is one of my favorites. Me and my husband definitely watch these all the time. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. Debbie Reynolds is near and dear to our hearts, just because she's, I think, the grandmother everyone wishes they had because of this movie. If you don't wish that, we can't be friends. Anyway, this movie, along with the two after it, which I know a lot of people like the fourth one. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm sorry, but anytime they change out a major character in a franchise, it just kind of throws it off for me. So I find it hard to watch the fourth one without just thinking it's missing Marnie, which, is the main character from the other movies, which they just swapped it out, and it's just really weird because the girl does not look at all like the original one. But either way, these movies are great, and I think that they're one of those that you can definitely put on and watch all three. So if you're having like a little game night or a kids movie night, then these three are definitely a good one to have in a marathon. Next is Nightmare Before Christmas. So Nightmare Before Christmas is definitely a classic. I know that there is merchandise out the wazoo on this movie, and there's a good reason for that. The soundtrack alone is amazing. It is something that randomly I will start singing out of nowhere, just because those are the types of songs that become earworms and get stuck in your head. This Is Halloween is a good song that you will definitely have in like your party music if you're gonna have a Halloween party, things like that, just because it's a fun song. Definitely a great movie to watch. I think it's a little too serious for kids. I don't know, at least that's how I feel. When I watched it as a kid, it wasn't as interesting to me as it is as an adult, and I know my husband tends to fall asleep when I put it on. It is still a great movie. The making of it, if you've never looked into that, look into the making of this movie. The way that they have to do claymation is crazy, and it takes so much time and a lot of technique, and it's pretty interesting and cool to see how they put that all together. So if you've never watched that, definitely look at that and look into how they made it, because it's really, really cool. Next is Paranorman. So this one I think is funny and it's enjoyable for sure for adults. Again, because there are elements of death, I don't know how age appropriate it is for little kids, but definitely a fun watch for, like, I would say PG-13 and up, just because it has humor, it's got an interesting storyline, there's just a lot of cool stuff in this movie, and it is one of those that I think is claymation as well. So again, a lot of things that go into that are pretty interesting when you see the making of them. It's a really great movie, so if you have not seen it, definitely check it out. And I think that this one is one that I used to get confused with, I think it's Frankenweenie is what it's called, which is another very similar movie. So both are good, but definitely check this one out. Goosebumps. So Goosebumps is a classic, and that's whether it be the books, whether it be the original show from back, in the 90s, which I still have rewatched recently, and it's still just as good as I remember, and still has very much a creepy Halloween vibe to it, similar to, Are You Afraid of the Dark and all those things, which I definitely loved as a kid. So those are great to watch if you have not already seen them, or maybe if your kids are new to all of that, that is a great thing to introduce them to if they're into all the creepy, spooky stuff. The recent remake show is actually really, really great with Justin Long and a bunch of other actors. It is very high quality, I would say, in comparison to the old one. So if you're not really into watching the older ones, the new ones are also really good. So they basically just put a new spin on a lot of the original series. And I mean, if you watched the original ones and you liked those, then it's kind of cool to compare and see what they did differently. Some of them I am partial to the old ones, but it's really a matter of opinion. Those are really good. And then also the movies, of course, 1 and 2. And I am biased. I like Jack Black a lot, so anything he's in, I'm pretty much down for. How did you feel about it? Did you watch it? Next is Haunted Mansion. So Haunted Mansion is, of course, a classic, awesome ride at Disney World for sure. And it is a fun watch with family, and I would say that, again, if your kids don't scare too easily, then absolutely a family-friendly movie. Next is Hotel Transylvania, and so these movies, there's 1 through 3 that I like. 4, again, I don't acknowledge because it's not Adam Sandler doing the main voice, and it's weird, and it throws me off, and I can tell the entire time, and I can hear where there's those subtle differences in his voice. So I'm really good with voices and with faces on actors. So anytime that that's the case and they replace a major actor, either voice wise or for their character in a movie, I don't know, it just really throws me off, so I can't enjoy it the same way. So this one, 1 through 3, I enjoy them all. I would say if I'm partial to any of them, it would be to part 2, just because it's the one with the little baby being born, and also because the little baby werewolf also is involved in that, and she's just super cute. So all of those are fun to watch, regardless of whether you have kids or not, and I would say they are absolutely family friendly. I don't think there's really a whole lot in there, as far as I can remember, that's not appropriate. So definitely a fun watch. So another movie that to me is almost like if the sound of autumn leaves scraping on the concrete and the cool breeze and stormy looking clouds was a movie, then that would be Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp in it. So this movie to me is a classic for Halloween time, and honestly I watch it randomly anyway, and I actually just recently got it on 4K, and I highly recommend, if you have a 4K player, 4K TV, all of those things, definitely explore getting some of those older movies that you love and that you definitely rewatch a lot, because the quality difference is definitely pretty significant, especially on, I think we just watched the Twister they did in 4K, and the difference is crazy. So I would highly recommend doing that if you do have 4K devices. It is something that's pretty cool to kind of refresh the movies that you already love. I bought this one on 4K recently, and worth every penny. I love this movie. It just has this overcast, dark, stormy feel to the whole movie. The soundtrack is great. The acting is phenomenal. I love all of the cinematography, the way that they do the whole time period, and also all the costumes. Everything is just really, really cool, and just really sucks you into that time period and to that, Tim Burton world. And I definitely do love Tim Burton movies for that reason. They just have their own signature style to them, and I think that that's fun and really cool that a director has that kind of stuff going for them. But anyway, this is definitely a must watch for me on my list, and I highly recommend watching it if you have not seen it. Speaking of time period movies, can't leave off Bram Stoker's Dracula. That movie is a great time period movie also, and I don't know anyone that doesn't think that Gary Oldman looks super cool in his top hat, sunglasses, get up. There's even been a lot of people that do tattoos of that particular character in that outfit just because it's iconic. And a lot of the costumes in this movie are just like next level. So if you've never seen the movie, it's got Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder, just a lot of big actors, and the acting is great, but the scenes just look really, really cool, and I highly recommend watching it. It is absolutely not appropriate for children, so do not have your kids anywhere in the room. There's a lot of inappropriate parts that don't have any part for children. So I would say from this point on in my list, probably not going to be okay for kids. But yeah, this one already, to start off with, there's a whole lot of very suggestive scenes on top of some nudity that just, you don't want your kids around for. But anyway, apart from that, everything else, the movie is just, start to finish beautiful as far as the costumes, the way that they do the special effects in it. Everything is next level. So highly recommend watching it if you haven't. Next is The Craft. So this is definitely a movie that I have seen time and time again, and it is a movie with 4 girls in it that, are witches, or they become like witches or form a coven. And to me, it is one that put Fairuza Balk on the map, and she is someone who, I don't know, like, I can't not think of this movie when I think of her, but she just does a great job. To me, she steals the show. I know that the main character is not hers, it's the other chick who kind of battles against her, but in my opinion, she's the main character. And yeah, it's great. It's got a lot of fall vibes to it for sure, but just the overall way that it's shot definitely pulls you into that fall vibe, and it's just a really good classic movie to watch. So Idle Hands are the Devil's Plaything. So Idle Hands is definitely a good movie when it comes to the Halloween vibe, because start to finish, you kind of feel like it's like a Friday night. You're about to have a Halloween party, and there's movies. It's just kind of one of those movies that just has this theme throughout it that just reminds you of being a teenager around Halloween. That's kind of the best way I can put it. It is one that I really like, that Seth Green is in. I'm sure that not a lot of people really know about this movie or really, I guess, talk about it. It's not really like a Oscar winner per se. It's not like a huge award-winning movie, that's for sure, but it is really funny. It's dark, it's crazy, it's definitely gory, but I definitely think it is a fun Halloween watch, and again, definitely for adults. Next is Trick or Treat. Now, Trick or Treat is one of my favorite Halloween movies. So this one has every element of Halloween you can think of when it comes to jack-o'-lanterns, candy, trick-or-treaters, and also it's kind of done in the same style of that Crash movie, where it's a bunch of different stories that happen that you kind of jump around to, and then you see how they're all connected. So I love that about it. It has just all the themes and elements that you would want when you're thinking of Halloween night. So if you have not seen this movie, highly recommend. Again, not appropriate for kids. There are some scenes in it that are definitely a bit risque, so definitely proceed with caution. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So this one has a great soundtrack. That's part of the draw for watching this movie. I look forward to hearing the music as soon as I hit play, and that is always really great when it's not just a good movie itself, but when the soundtrack takes it up that next level. So to me, this one absolutely nails it when it comes to the Halloween vibe, when it comes to time period. If you have not seen it, highly recommend watching it. Like I said, the music alone makes it worth watching. Highly recommend watching it if you're an adult. But also, I don't know many people who have not read the Scary Stories, as a child. So definitely one of those things that touches on your nostalgia also. Next is the Halloween movies. Of course, Michael Myers. So when I think of Halloween, period, I can't not think of Michael Myers. Those two things just kind of go together. It's because, the original movie is from, I believe, 1978. And so the image of jack-o'-lanterns and Michael Myers has been around for me since I was, tiny. So I associate the two automatically. And there's so many images from those movies that are just very, very iconic for Halloween, and that have been since, kind of immortalized in, graphic art and t-shirts and all sorts of things. So those movies are kind of classics, and whether it be the original ones or the Rob Zombie remakes, or even the most recent ones that they've redone with Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. So granted, I will admit that the timelines on these movies, don't look into that. It will ruin it for you. There's so many things that don't make sense, and people that entirely disappear from the plot, which will make you confused altogether if you try to kind of, bop boop beep boop, figure out where they went or how someone kind of popped out of nowhere when they didn't exist before. I don't know. Anyway, but if you overthink movies or overanalyze, you're honestly not going to enjoy them anyway. So I would say just put that aside and enjoy the movie for what it is. And the Halloween movies are just fun, and like I said, they have so many elements of Halloween because they all happen on Halloween night, and that in and of itself just makes them encompass everything that is Halloween. So the original movies, even from the 70s, definitely have that vibe. I'm not sure if they specifically shot them during that time period or not, but it definitely feels like it. And to me, anytime I saw those on cable when I was a kid, made me excited because they always came on around the Halloween season and when it was about to be Halloween. So I love them for that reason and highly recommend watching them if you haven't, because they're, of course, a classic. Next is Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course, there's a whole slew of movies for those. I want to say there's about 8 of them, so definitely a lot to watch. So if you wanted to honestly just put on all Freddy Krueger movies or make a Freddy Krueger themed party, you probably could, or make it a Freddy Krueger marathon game night. I'm not sure how well the originals aged. I don't think I have actually watched any of the originals in a really long time. I should actually go back and rewatch them, but they definitely, anything Freddy has a big time Halloween vibe for me. The theme music alone, or the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, all that stuff just really sparks the nostalgia for me when it comes to Halloween. For me, more than anything, my favorite of the franchise, and you may feel completely different and that's okay, but I love Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's kind of a turducken movie. It's a movie within a movie, and I know a lot of people don't like that, or some people may feel some type of way about it. I enjoy it. I really like that particular version. I like that it brought a lot of the main characters, or it brought Nancy back from the original one, and she got to play herself, and it's a kind of a revamped Freddy who's darker and scarier, and I really liked it. Also, the way that he has like this nightmare realm that she gets dragged into is crazy and scary, and the thought of like the end of your bed leading to like a whole nother universe or dimension is horrifying in and of itself. So I really like that particular one, so I highly recommend watching it if you have not seen it, because it is definitely one of my favorites. Next is Black Phone. So this one's one of the newer movies that's come out lately. It is starring Ethan Hawke, and this one in particular I feel like nails its time period, but also, again, like E.T., because there's kids walking home, getting into little scuffles and fights with each other, and all of that stuff. It just has a big strong pull for me toward the Halloween vibe. So there's not actual trick-or-treating or anything like that going on, but it just feels to me like it's in that time period. And so because of that, that's why to me this one is on my list, and I highly recommend watching it if you haven't. The kids that act in this movie, they are out of this world. The little girl in particular, man, if you don't feel some type of way on the scene where she's crying and freaking out, then yeah, I don't know what to say, because I can't help getting emotional watching those scenes because she does such a great job. But definitely watch this movie if you have not. Next is Haunt. So this one is kind of a less well-known movie, and we actually watched it just randomly while I was actually at my sister's house, and it was just because it just happened to be on my suggested list on Prime, and I thought, maybe I'll check this out. I've never heard of it, and I clicked on it, watched it, absolutely loved it. I thought it was totally underrated, and it was scary, it was good, it kind of was realistic in the sense of you could see yourself in the main character's position, because basically it's these people who go to this haunted house, which is kind of like a secret haunted house, and everything basically screams don't go in there, but of course they do, and everything you can imagine that you would fear going wrong in a haunted house does, and it kind of takes you from there. So if you have not seen this movie or even heard of it, highly recommend you check that out. It is a great movie. I was really surprised at just how good it was. because it didn't have like well-known actors or things like that, but highly recommend watching it if you haven't. Next on my list is Hellfest. So Hellfest is one where these kids kind of go to a festival, and I would say it's pretty comparable, or reminds me a lot of Halloween Horror Nights, which I tend to go to with my husband, which we will be going to this year, and I will hopefully drop a video for you guys about our experience there this year. It is definitely a kind of a parallel to that, or like Howl-O-Scream, which is another one in Orlando. It's basically a theme park having a Halloween themed whole festival. So these kids go to this thing unknowingly. There is a killer on the loose, and of course just the thought of that is terrifying, because when you go to these things, there's everyone, you know, half the people there are dressed like a killer or dressed in some form of scary outfit. So the idea of someone kind of hiding in plain sight and attacking people, that's awful. So that right there off the bat had me wanting to watch it, just because I was like, that's gonna be crazy and scary, and you know, all of those things. So it definitely is. It delivers on those ends. You know, you may feel some type of way about the ending, but I still recommend watching it, because again, it does have a lot of those Halloween vibes, because it is at a Halloween festival, and it just kind of puts you into that zone, you know, feeling the whole Halloween spirit, if you will. On that note, there's another one called Hell House LLC, which is not very well known. I didn't know about it again until I just happened upon it when browsing through Prime. I tend to do that a lot. I will stumble upon movies every now and then, look up what they're about, or watch the preview, and I will try to give a movie a chance regardless of what its rating is. And I highly recommend doing that if you find a concept for a movie interesting, because sometimes you can miss out on a good movie if you just trust the ratings rather than trust your own judgment. But this is one that I think was definitely underrated. There were some scenes where I straight up had to stop the movie altogether because I was freaking out about the scenes. They were giving me so much anxiety that I couldn't keep watching it at night. I had to stop the movie and wait till morning, till I saw some daylight, and then I started watching it again. There is a scene where, and I'll put an image of it here, where there's some like dummies, and they have them dressed up in these like terrible looking clown costumes, and they're just kind of sitting at the bottom of the stairs. And then I think at one point when someone's trying to leave, one of them is standing up at the bottom of the stairs. I lost it. I could not deal with that. I was like, oh, nope, I can't do it. Got to turn it off right now, because I'm about to freak out on behalf of the person who's about to go down those stairs. But also in that scene, it's dark and there's only like strobe lights going on, so it just adds to the terror of that scene. But they just do a whole lot with a little, because you can tell that it's not like a high budget film, but they still do a really, really good job with setting up all those really anxiety ridden scenes throughout the movie. So I highly recommend watching it if you have not seen it. Next is the Scream franchise. So I like all of them, but to me, the original one in particular has a very, very strong Halloween vibe for me, and I can't really put my finger on exactly what it is. It's like, it reminds me of what it felt like if it was like the Friday night before Halloween and you're about to go to Blockbuster and get a movie and a pizza. I can't describe exactly what about it makes me feel that way, but I guess it's also the costuming, the time period, you know, all of those things put together that make me feel that way, or reminds me of that. But that's just what I think of, or the vibe that I get from the movie every time I watch it. So for that reason, that's why this one is on the list for me. Next is Fear Street. So these are a series of films, and they're extremely well done. They're on Netflix, or they were, and they are based on R.L. Stein's books. So from the same vein as all the Goosebumps stuff. So if you were a Goosebumps kid, like me and my husband were, then you will definitely enjoy this series. I actually wouldn't mind going back and rewatching them, because I honestly forget a lot of things. You know, you watch so many things over time and you get older, things kind of just start falling out of your head, kind of like that episode of The Simpsons where stuff, you know, Homer tells Marge he can't learn anything new because something old's gonna fall out. So that's kind of what it feels like. I forget some of the things that I've watched before, or will forget what they were until I actually rewatched them. But anyway, these are really well done. They're definitely suspenseful, crazy, keep you, guessing what's going on. But also they have a definite time period vibe connection with a lot of like older slasher movies. So if you are a fan of that, then definitely check these out. Last but not least on my list are the Terrifier movies, including All Hallows Eve. So the Terrifier movies, I will give you, it's really more gore, and Art the Clown is really the main point of watching these movies. So the actors absolutely are still good at what they do. It's just that certain movies have certain reasons why they're more of a draw versus others, for certain things, certain aspects. So in this one, I feel like Art the Clown is really the draw for this movie. Not to mention there are the craziest kill scenes you'll ever see probably in a movie. They're just over the top, and that's kind of part of, I guess, its cult following or appeal, is because they're crazy and they're like their own niche, their own genre now. But I enjoy Art the Clown. I think he is a super weirdo, but funny and weird in all the right ways. So for that reason, I like the Terrifier movies, not to mention that there are some definite trick-or-treater scenes, I want to say, in the second one. But either way, if you are open-minded and want to see if you might like those movies, check them out. I want to say that Peacock had them on their streaming service, so if you don't want to buy those type of movies, you absolutely don't have to. You can definitely find them on a streaming service and check them out and see if they're your cup of tea, or if they're not. Definitely not everyone's, for sure. But there is a new Terrifier movie that is coming out soon that is Christmas based, but it is coming out in October, which I will be going to see October 11th. It is like Christmas based, and I'm really intrigued to see exactly what they're going to do to tie in Christmas and Art the Clown, but I'm here for it. I'm probably going to be squeamish throughout the entire thing and look away and all of those things, and probably think afterward, what the heck did I just watch? But that's kind of how I feel about all of the Art the Clown movies, all of the Terrifier movies. But I still like them, and I just really like Art the Clown. The concept of the character, period, and the gnarly way that he looks is very unique, and because of that, that is why I like this movie, and these movies, and why I think they belong on this list. And now to open my Terror Threads t-shirt, so that way you guys can see exactly what the new Art the Clown design looks like, and also the other shirt that I ordered for me and my husband, and so that way you can check them out and see if you want to get one. Alright, so per usual, they send their products with these stickers, which are pretty cool. And let's see, this is my husband's shirt, but this is what they look like. I'm pretty excited about that design. He looks menacing, and the tree looks great. I really like when I can find a shirt that combines horror and another holiday. So for me, this one is going to be awesome to wear around Christmas time. I'm sure a lot of people will be like, ugh, but a lot of people who know the movie will definitely appreciate it. I appreciate it, and I just really love their designs. I think they do a great job. Also, I like that it's a very soft vinyl print that they use on here. So it's definitely not one of those where the material doesn't breathe well when you put it on. So they're very comfortable. The t-shirt itself is very soft and feels good quality. We have already worn our other Art the Clown shirts before from Terror Threads, washed them, and they're still just as beautiful as they were when we got them. So I highly recommend this brand and company, and I will tag them below so that way you guys can check them out. Without further ado, I'll show you the next one. So speaking of the Haunt movie, I got this haunt shirt. So I was pretty excited when I saw that they had this design, because again, this is not a super well-known movie, so there's not a whole lot of merchandise out there for this movie. That's another thing that I really like about Terror Threads, is that they have random stuff that not a lot of other companies have done before or that are out. Not only that, but the designs are just really well done. They're high quality in my opinion, and I just really enjoy the vibrancy of them. They are just a really cool design. Most of their shirts, or pretty much all of them, I want when I go on their website and look at them. Of course, I wish I could afford them all, but you know, it is what it is. But this one is just cool, fun. I love that all the main characters from the movie, the evil characters anyway, are on this shirt, and I'm excited to be able to wear that. If you like this list, then chances are you're gonna like some of my other recommendations and movie reviews. So I will put a link here or down in the description below, so that way you can check those out as well. So what did you think of this list? Do you have any that I missed that you think in particular have a great Halloween vibe that I should add to my list? If so, please comment below. And if you like this video, please do me a favor and hit that like button, and also hit that subscribe button to support my channel. See you guys in the next one. Bye guys.